So how in the world does a brand go from basically zero to a 30x growth explosion, especially in a market that is already completely jam-packed with competition? Well, today we're going to tear down the strategy of a health and wellness startup that did exactly that, right on Shopify. And spoiler alert, this has nothing to do with luck, it's all about the playbook.
Yeah, you're seeing that right. 30 times. That's a revenue growth we're talking about here, and it happened in just 21 months. It's one of those numbers that almost feels made up, you know? It's just wild. So the question is pretty obvious. How on earth did they pull that off?
It's so easy to look at a number like that and just slap the label overnight success on it. But the real story, the one we're going to dig into, isn't about some viral moment or a lucky break. Nope. This is a masterclass in strategic execution.
Okay, so let's get real about what was behind that number. This wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a flash in the pan. This was the direct result of a very deliberate, very patient, long-term strategy that they built from the absolute ground up.
And this quote right here from the fractional CMO who was steering the ship, it just gets to the absolute heart of it. That explosive growth didn't just magically appear in month 20. Oh no, it was earned over nearly 2 years of laying the groundwork, testing things, breaking things, and just patiently iterating.
To really appreciate just how steep this climb was, you have to understand the mountain they were up against. They decided to launch into the health and wellness space. I mean, you could argue that's one of the most brutal, saturated e-commerce markets out there. You're fighting against established giants with monster budgets.
And just look at this contrast. I mean, it's almost comical. They went from 3 sales in their first month, 3, to over 400 at their peak. That is a staggering transformation from what was essentially a complete standstill.
You know, this SWOT analysis from day one is so revealing. Yeah, sure, they knew they had some great products in a growing niche, but just look at the right side of that chart. 0 brand awareness, no customer base, and just a wall of established competitors. They were starting from scratch in literally every sense of the word.
So, the million-dollar question. How did they get over those massive hurdles? Well, they used a pretty brilliant 4-part growth playbook. This is the how behind the incredible results we've been talking about.
And the key here is that this playbook was an integrated engine, not just a random list of things to do. It combined aggressive paid ads, super strategic email marketing, relentless conversion optimization, and really patient influencer marketing. Each piece made the others stronger.
Okay, let's zoom in on the paid advertising piece for a sec. This was so much more than just, boosting posts. It was a really sophisticated system running across both Google and Meta. They were constantly testing new ad creative to keep things fresh and used hard data to decide where every single dollar should go for maximum impact.
Now, a huge, and I mean huge, part of their long-term strategy was building this, an owned marketing channel. See, instead of constantly paying Facebook or Google to reach an audience, they focused on building their own asset, their email list. Growing it from 5,000 to over 20,000 subscribers gave them a powerful, direct, and pretty much free way to talk to their customers and drive repeat sales. It's so smart.
Of course, getting traffic to the site is really only half the battle, right? They completely obsessed over conversion rate optimization, or CRO. This meant they were constantly running audits to find any friction points, A/B testing everything from buttons to the checkout flow, and making sure the mobile experience was perfect. All of this was to turn more of those hard-won visitors into actual paying customers.
You know, their approach to influencer marketing is a real lesson in patience. When they started out, nobody knew who they were, so creators were pretty hesitant. But instead of just throwing money around, they spent months building genuine relationships. And eventually, they secured true partners, real advocates, who helped build the brand trust they absolutely needed to grow. So we've seen the playbook, right? We know the strategy. Now let's look at the numbers and see just how powerful this whole integrated system really was. The proof is in the data.
A super important metric for any paid advertising is your return on ad spend, or ROAS. And their efficiency just got better and better over time. They went from getting about $2 back for every $1 they spent, all the way up to a peak of nearly $3.70. That's just proof that their targeting and their ads just kept getting smarter. And what's really interesting is that through all of this explosive growth, their average order value held pretty steady at a very healthy $123. That tells you that right from the beginning, they had a strong product mix and a pricing strategy that really clicked with the new customers they were bringing in.
Okay, this chart right here visualizes the whole journey perfectly. You can see those green bars, that's sales value, just steadily climbing up and to the right. And notice how the orange line, that's the ad spend, it scales intelligently with the sales. It doesn't just explode randomly. And that crucial black line, the ROAS, it keeps trending up. That's the proof that they were scaling profitably. This is what smart growth actually looks like on a chart.
And this chart, this perfectly shows the power of that own channel we were just talking about. Look at the lighter green bars. That's the email list, growing month after month after month. Now, look at the darker bars. That's gross sales. The correlation is it's undeniable. As they built that direct line to their customers, the revenue went right along for the ride. It's no accident. So what can we all learn from this incredible growth story? Let's try to distill this whole case study down into some key takeaways that you can actually apply to whatever you're working on.
So what are the big lessons here? Well, first, focusing on a niche helps you stand out. But the real magic, the real secret sauce, is when you build that integrated engine, where your ads, your email, and your partnerships are all working together. And that engine has to be constantly tuned with A/B testing, it has to be fueled by authentic relationships, and it has to be steered by one thing above all else: data.
In the end, it all just boils down to this really powerful idea. It's not enough to just have a great plan on a whiteboard somewhere. True sustainable growth only happens when that strategy is met with consistent, patient, and relentless execution over a long period of time.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. I want you to look at your own projects, your own brand. Do you have a clear strategy? And maybe more importantly, are you giving it the sustained, day in, day out execution it really needs to win? Thanks for joining this breakdown.